This is Texans TV. Texans Extra Points is sponsored by Community Coffee, strong as our roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by your Houston area Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas, and by Emoji, the official business bank of the Houston Texans.
The Texans are back. They're back at home at NRG Stadium, and we're back for Texans Extra Points. My name is Drew Dougherty, joined by my good pals, Wade Smith, a Pro Bowl offensive lineman who made his debut against the Indianapolis Colts here in 2010, his Texans debut. Wow. So you're the perfect guy to talk to, and you're always the perfect guy to talk to, John Harris, team analyst, radio sideline reporter. We have much to discuss. I know y'all are ready, right?
Definitely. Let's get it.
All right. Before we get into that, we've got to get some quick hits out of the way. And like always, we're going to have keys to a Texans victory later on in this show. Plus, these two guys and myself will give you Texans to watch against Indianapolis. And we're going to interview tight end Dalton Schultz one-on-one. Plus, we've got to do some things with a telestrator. And when I say we, it's really that guy over there, John Harris. So we're going to break down the X's and O's and have a really fun telestrator. But we're going to begin by getting into the offense. It was a fun display the week after that first game in practice, seeing what they did. And I think it's going to be a little bit more fun than what we saw last Sunday. But fill this blank in. I liked this about C.J. Stroud's performance. We'll begin with you, Wade.
I would say I like his maturity and progression throughout the game. You look at the way the game started, you could tell that things seemed like they were moving a little bit quick for him. He wasn't quite on point like you might want him to be. But then as the game progressed, you could see things slowing down. You could see him making mature decisions with the ball. I really liked what I saw out of C.J. Stroud on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, that's maturity and progression. I like that. What would you say?
I still think his ball placement, everything was on point. I think there were a couple times he missed because he was throwing on the run a little bit. But, as the speed of the game picks up a little bit, then you have to adapt your game too. Like, okay, if I'm on the run and I'm running this fast away from Roquan Smith, I might have to do this with my mechanics to get the ball there on point. But, boy, his third downs in the second quarter, he went to Robert Woods 3 times. And what I loved was the second one where he started looking at the left side, didn't like it. Woods was holed up right over here like, hey, man, I'm here. Got back over to that side, withstood the rush, and delivered a ball for a first down. So I loved his third down ability, especially in that second quarter when he got 3 in a row with Robert Woods.
One of Will Anderson Jr.'s nicknames is the Terminator, but kind of like a robot. I think we've seen C.J. Stroud in OTAs, in training camp, in the preseason games especially, do something wrong or do something not as good as he could and then fix it and correct that problem. It was a clear progression, definitely in the August game. So with that in mind, how about this? I would like to see Stroud do blank differently on Sunday against the Colts. What would you like to see him do?
I think the biggest thing is just the mechanics of the huddle and getting everybody out of the huddle. I mean, I got to a point during the game going, it's 15 guys, let's go. It's 12 guys, let's go. Let's get this done. So I think a little bit faster you're getting out of the huddle, you got an opportunity for Bobby to continue to talk in his ears up until 15 seconds. But I think you got to move that along so you can incorporate motion, shifts, trades, whatever you want to do. Let's get out of the huddle a little bit faster. And if he does that, I think the offense can really go.
Yeah, D'Amico Ryan said pick up the pace, pick up the tempo. What do you want to see differently from Stroud?
I would say this, man. In this particular offense, the last thing you want to do is give up sacks on bootlegs. And there was times that he could have just thrown the ball away, get the ball out of bounds. As an offensive lineman, you don't want to give up sacks on the stat sheet on bootlegs, and he had opportunities where he could have just thrown it away. That's a big thing, and that's a young quarterback thing where you want to make every play. Sometimes the player's not there, just get rid of it and move on to the next play. I think that was the only thing that I think he could really improve upon in this game. I thought he played well.
All right, let's stick with you. I mentioned it earlier. Your first game as a Houston Texan. Arian Foster erupts, 231 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then the next week, I think you guys passed for something like 500-600 yards at Washington. So you guys knew how to block. You're part of the best offensive line in team history. What's going on with the current version in your eyes? What are you seeing so far?
Well, first and foremost, they're dealing with some tough injuries. Titus Howard not being there. Kenyon Green out for the season. You got a bunch of guys, Juice Scruggs, that's out for a few weeks. Like, when you have a bunch of guys that were supposed to be starting that have been working in that role all off season, and now you're putting in new guys and plugging in, it's going to be difficult for you to gel and come together quickly. But that's the task at hand. That's your professionals. That's the job. And so, you got to see those guys gel together, communicate better, work off the different games when you're seeing different blitzes and stuff like that. And I think they'll be able to do it. They still have some stalwarts on the line, guys like Tunsil and Shaq Mason. I think those guys can help lead the others. But overall, I think you could just tell that there are some new faces out there, and they hadn't played together very long.
All right, good stuff. We're going to get into the defense that the Texans have going on after the break. But before we do, I had a chance to go one-on-one with tight end Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, tight end for the Houston Texans, joins us now. Dalton, good to be with you as always. Week 1 to week 2 collectively, what is the we got to do this better thing for the Texans?
Yeah, I think it's easy. Like for us, it comes down to just like how we operate, clean operation. There was a lot of times where we just weren't clean in and out of the huddle. Whether it be with the play calls, getting lined up right, on the ball, checks, cadences, it's just one of those things, man. It's week 1, and we're a young team kind of working through it a little bit, but that's definitely been the focus from week 1 to week 2. We pride ourselves on being able to run the ball, and it's something we just got to put on film. There's a lot of moving parts in an offense like this, and I think that responsibility kind of falls on everybody. We have a great run game, we have a great O-line coach, and Bobby puts together great run plans, and it's just having confidence in the guys to be able to run off the ball and really take it to them.
So that's the offense. Dalton, what do you want to do individually better?
There's always the week 1 growing pains, right? Certain blocks that you want back, certain routes that you might want to, do a little bit different. But that's just the game of football. And I think, with a young team like this, the improvement from week 1 to week 2 is usually where you see the most. And, I'm excited to see how we bounce back.
Dalton Schultz, tell us about this Colts defense from what you've been looking at on film this week and getting ready for them. What's most impressive about them?
Yeah, they're sound. They do what they do. Again, they're a lot like our defense structurally in a way. They got a bunch of guys that jump off the ball. They got a good group of linebackers. They do what they do, and they do it really well. You hear it. It's like the old Seattle defense. It's a lot of guys lined up in predetermined spots, but they play their roles very well. Hats off to them. I think they've had top 10 run defense for a long time. And so we know that running the ball is going to be a challenge this week, and we're looking forward to that.
All right, how much are you looking forward to playing in front of the NRG Stadium home crowd? It's a regular season. It's going to be loud when you're on the sidelines and you guys are watching the defense go. How nice is it going to be to have that going for you, and then being a little quiet when you guys are out there?
It's going to be nice to hear the cadence this week. That'll be pretty sweet. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the energy's like in NRG. Obviously we had a preseason game there, but I think actually, your home opener is a little bit more juice to it. So I'm excited to see how, the energy is on game day. I'm excited to just kind of get in a familiar environment a little bit, kind of, strap it up and lace them up and let's go, man. I'm excited.
Dalton Schultz, always good to be with you. Thanks so much for the time and good luck.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Luck fakes to give, sprints out to the right, Watt chasing, and he trips up Luck at the 5. It's a sack for J.J.
J.J. Watt in 2012 sacking Andrew Luck of the Indianapolis Colts. You guys actually clinched the division that day.
We did.
Wade Smith, you were in that game. That was a good one. It was a second straight division title. John Harris joining us as well. I'm Drew Dougherty. So let's talk about Will Anderson Jr. Nice debut. Now, what would Will Anderson Jr. have done, and what will he do against mere mortal QBs? Because I think Lamar Jackson is a different species. What do you see happening?
Yeah, you saw a couple of times where he had great pressures, and he would have finished the play against probably 30 other quarterbacks in the league, and he wasn't able to do it. Imagine him going against a guy that's a little bit less mobile, a little bit less Lamar Jackson. I expect him to have a hell of a year. You look at him, he's consistently winning one-on-one battles at the point of attack, whether it's in the run game or in the pass game. You saw him get home and get a sack on Lamar Jackson. I'm excited to see what him and Jonathan Grenard, that combination they have going together. They look really good against the Ravens.
You and I do a podcast every Tuesday called In the Lab. We talked at length about Will Anderson Jr. You compared him in some sort of way to a cheetah, but what did you see in this game, and what do you see happening?
Yeah, he just pounced. His bend, his twitch. It's everything you want in an edge rusher, but I think his superpower is his relentlessness.
Yeah.
His sack, if you look at the sack, he's being held, but his bend, I know we're on TV, but he is skimming the ground underneath Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses is 6'7", can't get down to him. and he gets knocked to his knees the first time he reaches out. He pops up off his knees and then bursts forward and then is able to sack Lamar Jackson. Now, that isn't going to get much easier this week because you got 6'5", 245 back there in Anthony Richardson. So difficult to tackle takes on a different meaning because Jackson was so slippery, but Richardson's enormous. Thankfully, Will Anderson has played against Anthony Richardson before. That will help. That knowledge will help him. Like, okay, I played against this guy before. I know what it takes to bring a guy of this size down to the ground.
Hey, you're a Pro Bowl left guard on this team. So if you're an interior offensive lineman for the Texans, or for another team, excuse me, what are you seeing when you see the interior of the Texans defensive line? Because they're doing some nice things too.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing. You got to think they have different styles of guys, and they come at you in waves. You look at it, you got a guy like Kurt Hinish that's coming off the bench that's a lot bigger and stronger, a little bit wider than what you're seeing out of going against maybe a Ridgeway or a Malik Collins. These guys are all talented and they're all effective coming off the ball and being effective penetrators, causing issues against the offensive line, but they're different. And so as an offensive lineman, that's tough to deal with. When you have a couple of guys that are similar in their play styles, then you can kind of settle in on what you're going to go against. But when you have guys that are different, they bring different things to the table, then you have to mentally and then physically switch up from play in and play out.
Hey, for the bulk of Sunday's game, we didn't hear Odell Beckham Jr.'s name called, and that means you heard great things or saw great things from Derek Stingley Jr. How would you assess his play and what it's going to look like moving forward?
I went back and I watched the film, the All-22 film. So I've got about 5 different shots I'm looking at and watched every play, and I'm like, whoa, Sting, this is, wow. Another play, wow, this is, look at how he runs this route. I thought Derek Stingley Jr. might be, other than Will Anderson Jr., the best thing that came out of that game. His coverage was pristine. The DPI was an absolute joke. There was no way he should have gotten it. That was a veteran move by OBJ to get that flag on him. The only completion he gave up was one time against Zay Flowers. Well, who didn't Zay Flowers have a catch against? And I don't know that that's Sting's repertoire to cover. Nobody covers Zay Flowers and going to cover a Tank Dell, man-to-man like that. But Derek Stingley Jr. was on it all day. In fact, the play that Jalen Petrie got hurt on, if Petrie's not creating that pressure, it's a pick six because Stingley had run the route perfectly for OBJ and was ready to take that one to the house.
All right, speaking of the defense, John was talking about the defense in this latest version of the Telestrator. Johnny, take away the X's and O's, please.
Texans defense in week 1 had some really bright moments. So let's go to our Telestrator presented by BMW and take a look at one of those. And it happened early in the game here as the Ravens are driving. They're down in the red zone. And they're going to take Isaiah Likely and they're going to move him into a bunch here. So they're going to have this little bunch here. Now, there are a number of different ways you can cover this bunch. These 3 players are about to cover this bunch set about as well as I've ever seen it. This is tremendous. So we're going to take a look at the secondary coverage here. And you can look at the communication. Look at Steven talking to his safety right there as Murray, and here's Sting. So they're going to match up when Likely goes in motion. Okay? He's going to get in there, and he's going to create that bunch. So now, you can see these 3 guys right here. They got to handle all this. Now, these guys can go in a number of different directions, but they have to match up. Watch them match up out of this bunch. Nelson's going to jump on Zay. You got Murray right there on the tight end, and then Sting is going to jump on Odell Beckham Jr. And look at Sting on OBJ. Look at him get there. Now, Petrie's driving, okay, so this is cover 1. So you got Petrie driving down so he can help, but they know where their leverage is. Look at the plaster here. Nothing, 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 nothing. That's tremendous coverage. Okay, let's watch the result of the play. Steven Nelson interception. Now, let's get to the front here. There's so much to love here. First of all, you got Will Anderson here next to Jerry Hughes with JG over here. What's great about this play is this right here, that combination between Will Anderson Jr. and Zeitler. Watch Anderson get underneath his pads, which is tough to do. He's 315, Will's we'll give him 250. Might be more, but we'll give him 250. Watch Will get off the ball and then get underneath. See how he gets inside with that underneath rip? For a rookie, a 250-pound rookie doing that inside is tremendous. That's what starts the play. So he gets here, that forces Lamar to have to back up. But he gets no help because of how they structured this rush over here. With these 2 linebackers over here, with JG, Rankin's working this side, the back has to go here. That leaves Anderson underneath, Zeitler no help. has to float it. Nelson picks it off. We talk about rushing coverage working together. That's the epitome of it, and they do that for 17 weeks. That defense is going to be rock solid all year.
Weeden gets the snap. Weeden rolling out to the right. Hits Strong. Strong across the 5. Strong to the end zone. He dives in. The Texans take the lead.
The great Brandon Weeden, goodness gracious, that touchdown pass to Jalen Strong helped deliver the Texans' first road victory against the Colts way back when. We got Drew, Wade, and John. So let's talk about these Indianapolis Colts. We got to start with the quarterback. It's a natural thing. John, how do you rattle Anthony Richardson?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing that you can do is just continue to hit him. If he decides he's going to run the football, you hit him with 2-3 guys. Legally. But you've got to make him pay because those hits start racking up a little bit. And the more hits you take, he's running 12 to 15 times. By the fourth quarter, he's taking a couple shots on that right wing. And all of a sudden, instead of throwing those 100-mile fastballs, man, one sails on him, it sails into the lap of a Texan, and you get a turnover you need. So you've got to be as physical on him as he wants to be. Now, his style is not to back off. Okay, let's match that. Let's pop him a few times legally and make sure he's feeling that because that's going to impact his throwing down the road.
We talked with Will Anderson in the locker room on Wednesday, and he kind of joked, yeah, he's as big as us as defensive lineman, this guy, Anthony Richardson. So what are, besides his size and his arm and his escapability, what are some of the strengths that you like and see out of this guy?
Well, he's an aggressive player. I think he's an aggressive guy. He's going to try to run the ball. He's going to try to throw the ball deep. I think you got to use that against him. You got to use his willingness to run the ball against him. You saw Sunday where you saw Tarvier Thomas punch that ball out on Lamar Jackson. That's the type of things that you're going to have to see this week as well against Anthony Richardson because he's a young guy. He's going to try to run and make plays, knock that ball loose. These guys, D'Amico talks all the time about swarming. When you got a big quarterback like that, that's athletic. You can't expect it to be one-on-one tackles. You got to tackle him 2, 3, 4, 5 guys at a time, and the second guy come through, knock that ball out. And so I think that's an important thing that they have to do this week is use his aggressiveness against him.
Hey, on the flip side, we asked you this on the other side, but for the Texans interior line, that's a pretty tough test, man. You got DeForest Buckner and those guys on the inside. How do you mitigate what they can possibly do?
Well, you hit them in the mouth, and you hit them in the mouth over and over and over and over and over again, kind of like my guy Marshawn says, you're going to run through their face. and if you have that, you talked about it at the beginning of the show, the first time we played the Colts in 2010, we hit them in the mouth. And you consistently hit somebody in the mouth, and after a while, they're going to not want to deal with that anymore. And so, a big dose of Dameon Pierce. As an offensive lineman, you don't have to deal with DeForest Buckner rushing the passer if you hit him in the mouth because you're running the ball downhill. And so I think that's the easiest way to handle guys like that. And they're not going to just let you do it. These are big time players over there. But hey, if I'm an interior guy, that's what I want to do. A guy like that, I want to go hit him in the mouth. And in that way, we can kind of dictate to them and take away their fastball trying to get to the quarterback.
Rock and roll with the run. Okay, so Texan to watch for you is who?
Texan to watch for me, they're going to be the two safeties. And I say the two safeties because I don't think we're totally sure who's going to play back there. With Jalen Petrie, what happened to him, and Jimmy Ward, we don't know. But Eric Murray and MJ Stewart, I thought, played very, very well in their stead. They can still do all the things they want to do. Murray covered tremendously in that game, and MJ came up and made some big plays, including the fumble recovery. But they're going to be the guys I watch because they've got to help with the run game. They've got to be the extra defender to come down there and help on Richardson, give him a different look. And look, it's Richardson's first road game. Yeah. That has got to be, the fans have got to amp this thing up, and that's where those safeties really can come into play as they interchange, show some different looks and disguises.
I like it. Who's yours?
There's a lot of guys that you can go with, but I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud, his progression from week 1 to week 2, I think is going to be marked. Like I said, I thought he played well. I think this week you're going to say, okay, this is why this guy was the number 2 pick in the draft and was arguably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. I expect them to have a breakout performance where we're getting in the end zone multiple times. He's utilizing guys like Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Robert Woods and Dalton Schultz, getting those guys the ball in space and let them do work.
Gimme Grenard. Everybody knows what Will Anderson can do, especially the guys on the other side of the field, the Colts. So I think Grenard's going to get his chances, and I bet he gets to Richardson a time or 2 or 3 or more. All right, stick with us because after the break, we got keys to a victory. Don't go anywhere. This is Texans Extra Points.
Extra Points has been sponsored by Community Coffee, Strong as Our Roots, by Reliant, the official energy provider of the Houston Texans, and by Mattress Firm, the official sleep partner of the Houston Texans.
We're back. It's that time of Texans Extra Points when we've got Ticketmaster keys to a victory. Drew Dougherty, Wade Smith, John Harris. John, we'll begin with you. What 2 things must the Texans do against the Colts to come out victoriously?
Got to slow down Grove and Buck. Got to block Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. Absolutely have to. And I also think that you got to attack the corners. I don't think their corners are tremendous. They're guys that are new. Baker and Flowers have played over there. They're still trying to incorporate Julius Brents, who's a rookie. Last week you saw it against the Ravens. You just didn't have as much time to try and challenge them deep. I think you've got to try and challenge some inexperienced corners in this game against the Colts.
Okay, how about you?
I said the first key is, utilize the crowd. The fact that this is the first home game, there's going to be a sold-out crowd. Play to that crowd. That means start fast, get after those guys early in the ball game. Let your pass rushers go to work on Anthony Richardson, a young quarterback. And that's the second key of the game is, slow down Anthony Richardson, make him look like a rookie. If you can make a rookie look like a rookie, then you're going to have a lot of success as a defense. And so those are my 2 keys to the game.
I love it. You got to run the ball a little bit more, a lot more than you did at Baltimore. I think that's a little bit easier here at NRG Stadium. And it's kind of along the lines of what these guys said, but you got to harass and hammer away at AR-15, Anthony Richardson. Guys, John, Wade, always good to be with you. Can't wait to do it again very, very soon. We thank you for checking us out here on Texans Extra Points, and we will be back again, same place, same time, next week. Till then, go Texans.